Number 10. Pitch Black Match. The first and only ever pitch black match was held at the 2023 Royal Rumble between LA Knight and Bray Wyatt. Since no one had ever heard of a pitch black match before, fans were left to wonder what this could be. However, many noticed that Mountain Dew's new pitch black drink was the sponsor for the event, so WWE took a big paycheck and went all out on the sponsorship, from graphics to LED boards, and even pitting Wyatt and LA Knight against each other in the first ever pitch black match. The pair had feuded for a while on the build-up to the pay-per-view and had gripped fans with both wrestlers' highly entertaining performances together during this build-up. In hindsight, this was the beginning of the rise of LA Knight on the main roster. The match type seemed to suit Wyatt's persona well, but as this match unfolded, many were left confused as the lights were dimmed and the ringside area, including the wrestlers' gear, lit up like a neon rave. The pair would put on a fairly short but decent match, making use of illuminated weapons, with Wyatt finally picking up the win. Overall, this match type made no sense in the story, nor did it add any extra element of danger, and it was simply WWE taking a big paycheck from Mountain Dew. Number 9. The Kennel from Hell. During the Attitude Era, the WWE tried all sorts of new ideas and stipulations within its storylines to shock and engage the viewers. One infamous feud during this time was between the Big Boss Man and Al Snow, often feuding over the Hardcore title. However, on this occasion, after the Big Boss Man went too far by kidnapping Al Snow's dog and eventually tricking him into eating it, a unique match was set up for Unforgiven 1999 between the two in the first ever Kennel from Hell match. The match itself was practically a steel cage surrounded by a Hell in a Cell, with guard dogs around the ringside area. However, in reality, the dual cages looked terrible on TV, and the dogs themselves were really laid back, taking time to poop on the floor and were often distracted by each other rather than the wrestlers. The match didn't really feature any high spots, and Al Snow eventually managed to exit the cage and through the cell door without the dogs chasing after him to secure the win in a very underwhelming and bizarre match to blow off their feud. Number 8. The Concrete Crypt. In 2004, after The Undertaker had returned at WrestleMania 20, Paul Bearer once again appeared at the Dead Man's side, and as the pair continued to dominate the SmackDown brand, Paul Heyman wanted to control The Undertaker for his own use and ordered the Dudley Boys to kidnap Paul Bearer to hold ransom over The Undertaker. This led to the first ever Concrete Crypt match at the 2004 Great American Bash pay-per-view, with the Dudley Boys facing The Undertaker in a 2-on-1 handicap match. With Paul Bearer trapped inside the glass crypt on the stage with a cement truck ready to bury him inside, Paul Heyman tried to order the Phenom to obey him with the urn, but The Undertaker would go on to pick up the win, and as many thought he was about to save Paul Bearer, he instead switched the cement truck on and buried Bearer alive into the crypt. This was an unexpected turn, as it appeared we had all just seen a murder committed on live TV. However, on the following SmackDown, it was later revealed Bearer was still alive, just badly injured, and The Undertaker had pulled the trigger due to Bearer weighing him down as a vulnerability to the dead man. Number 7. The Gulf of Mexico. This match can only ever take place in one location, and that's around the Gulf of Mexico itself. The match itself plays out as any no DQ or no count out match would. However, the only way to win is to actually throw your opponent into the body of water that is the Gulf of Mexico. WWE have even used the location without the match stipulation, such as when Cody Rhodes threw Damien Sandow's Money in the Bank briefcase into the water, or even Kane chokeslamming Rey Mysterio into the water on an episode of SmackDown. One memorable match under this stipulation was held on WWE's version of ECW, with CM Punk and Chavo Guerrero feuding over the ECW title at the time. Whilst this match wasn't for the championship, the pair would brawl throughout the arena, eventually making their way outside, where we would see CM Punk delivering a GTS to Chavo, sending him flying into the water. Whilst this match certainly is unique and entertaining, it's definitely a strange way to win a match for sure. Number 6. Hog Pen Match. The Hog Pen Match debuted back in 1995 when Henry O. Godwin, whose gimmick was that of a stereotypical pig farmer, was feuding with a young Triple H. Godwin would often dress in overalls and bring a bucket of slop to the ring with him during his time in the company. This gimmick would become the genesis of the Hog Pen Match. Godwin and Triple H would settle their feud at the In Your House 5 Seasons Beating pay-per-view in the first ever Hog Pen match. The Hog Pen was set up by the staging area and included live pigs as well, with the only way to win being to throw your opponent into the hog pen. The pair would put on a messy spectacle, with Triple H even being busted open. However, Triple H would remain undefeated at the time and would pick up the win after backdropping Godwin into the hog pen. Years later, the match would be resurrected at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view in 2009 between Vicky Guerrero and Santino Marella, where the rules had been altered, with the match itself mostly taking place within the hog pen and the only way to win being via pinfall or submission. Either way, this match is a pretty gross stipulation for anyone to be involved in. Number 5. House of Horrors. Another bizarre matchup that branched on from a Bray Wyatt storyline involving the Viper Randy Orton was the House of Horrors match held between the two at Payback 2017. Wyatt would deliver several cryptic promos on the build-up to the event about what the match could be, but in reality, Wyatt, and not even WWE executives, really knew what the match would be. It turned out that the match would be held in an abandoned house, where WWE went over the top with creepy music and lighting to make the place look decayed. From self-driving tractors to creepy dolls hanging from the ceiling, there wasn't much horror to this house other than it being unclean. The match itself wouldn't even end in the house, as Wyatt would trap Orton under a fridge, then take a limo back to the arena. Later on in the night, the match would in fact continue in the ring, with Jinder Mahal interfering to take out Orton and help deliver Wyatt the win. The match would receive heavy criticism afterwards and still makes little sense to this day. Number 4. Blindfold Match. Usually when you take away the sense of sight, it can become quite difficult to perform tasks, so wrestling a match would definitely be a challenge. This match has been rarely used throughout the history of WWE and should probably remain that way. Believe it or not, WrestleMania 7 even held a blindfold match between Rick Martel and Jake the Snake Roberts in 1991. Both wrestlers did what they could to have an intriguing contest, but it involved far too much feeling around and not getting anywhere. These matches usually carry a comedic value and usually involves a heel trying to cheat and removing the blindfold, as we saw when Rick Martel removed his mask, only to fall victim to Jake Roberts' DDT. Years later in 2002 on an episode of Raw Roulette, Triple H and D'Lo Brown also faced off in a blindfold match, but at least the pain was kept to a minimum. Again, this involved Triple H the heel cheating by removing his blindfold to hit a pedigree and win the match. Whilst the blindfold match can be fun to watch, they are definitely not a draw and should mostly remain in the past. Number 3. The Gravy Bowl. The Gravy Bowl match spawned as a Thanksgiving-themed matchup specifically for the women's division during WWE's Attitude Era. The object of the match is to win by pin or submission whilst fighting in a giant bowl of gravy. The first ever matchup of this kind took place on an episode of SmackDown in 1999 between Jacqueline and Ivory, with Miss Kitty as the special guest referee. The match would last just over a minute, with Jacqueline picking up the win after hitting a DDT. The match would return in different variations over the years, such as a pudding match, eggnog, mud, and much more. Featuring the likes of Stacy Keibler and Tori Wilson, these matches were often short and proved difficult to compete in, with the wrestlers often slipping. We are unlikely to see this kind of matchup happening again now after WWE turned PG and the women's revolution. If anything, it will probably be used for comedic value if it were to ever return. Number 2. Dumpster Match. Throwing your opponent into a dumpster bin to win a match sounds quite comedic, but these matches have proved to be quite physical with a hardcore nature. The match has rarely been seen throughout wrestling history, but WWE's first use of this match type came at the biggest stage of them all at WrestleMania 14, as the New Age Outlaws defended the tag team titles against Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie. During the build-up to the match, we even saw the New Age Outlaws lock Cactus and Chainsaw into a dumpster and push them off the Raw stage. As WrestleMania 14 arrived and the match unfolded, it was a ton of fun, chaotic and full of weaponry, with the end seeing the teams brawl backstage, and Chainsaw Charlie even using a forklift to dump the New Age Outlaws into the dumpster and win the match. As the years passed by, this match would rarely appear, with the most recent version in WWE featuring Braun Strowman losing to Kalisto on an episode of Raw in 2017. The match still proves to be as chaotic as ever, in a truly fun but bizarre way to win a match. Number 1. An eye for an eye. Taking place at Extreme Rules 2020, nicknamed The Horror Show, this is exactly what this match turned into, and thankfully only happened once. As the name suggests, the way to win this match is to actually remove your opponent's eye from its socket. Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio were the unfortunate pair to do battle in this first ever match, and left fans wondering exactly how far WWE would go with this stipulation. This all occurred due to Seth Rollins' Messiah gimmick practically losing his mind and forcing Alexander Black and Rey Mysterio's eye into the steel ring steps of Monday Night Raw, which eventually led to the pair feuding and resulting in this match. Many thought that WWE might use CGI or make this a cinematic match, however it turned out to be a one-on-one, no DQ or count-out match, with the pair using a variety of weapons to try and scoop out the other's eye. The grim ending would see Seth Rollins push Mysterio's eye into the steel ring steps again, with the masked luchador's eye popping out of his mask as he cried out in pain. Trainers would rush down to ringside to help Rey, while Seth would actually throw up. Of course this wasn't Rey's real eye, but rather a prop. But either way, this definitely turned out to be one of WWE's most bizarre and gruesome match types to ever take place.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling content.